pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello BookTube, I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. Here I am with a Christmas Canada book haul, and a few that I've acquired since I got back to Japan a few days ago. So I'm not organized for this. Hopefully the editing process will tighten up and obscure my lack of organization, but I literally haven't even looked at the 3 bags of books that I lugged back from Canada since I got back on January 2nd, and today is January 7th. So I'm the kind of person that packs for a trip, whether it's a 1-month trip or an overnight trip. I don't start packing until anywhere between an hour or 20 minutes before I'm leaving with my suitcase. Why would you need more time than that? And I also don't believe in unpacking. When I need something, I will find it in my luggage, and bit by bit my suitcase will get unpacked over the ensuing days and weeks. So now the heaviest items in my suitcase are now unpacked and about to be hauled. So without further ado, let's get started. So this is going to be a mix of used and new books, and even a Christmas gift or two. The first one is a brand new novel, from Canadian novel, Our Homesick Songs by Emma Hooper. 2018 novel. Her debut novel, I heard a bit about, Etta and Otto and Russell and James. And that has a Saskatchewan twist, I believe. And this one is set in Newfoundland during the shutting down of the cod fishing industry. That's all I know. I am not one of those booktubers that tells you a lot about the book, because I don't think you need to know. I certainly don't need to know. There's other places to find out plot synopses. But I heard really good things about this book from Jenny on her podcast, Reading Envy, and it alerted me to its existence. So I'm only reading you the opening sentence or paragraph if it has some kind of standalone vitality, and just because it doesn't mean it's not a great book. But some books start out with a real bang that it has a standalone oomph to it, and others don't. This is a used book that I got because this featured on a collaborative exchange of page 112 tags last year. Louis de Bernier's The War of Don Emmanuel's Nether Parts. What a fabulous title. This is going to vie for my best title of the year if I end up reading it this year. And I don't remember much about the page 112 other than it intrigued me. It looks like it's set in some Spanish-speaking country, and the spoiled and haughty protagonist, Donna Constanza, tries to divert a river to fill her swimming pool. Here's the opening 2 sentences. It had been an auspicious week for Capitan Rodrigo Jose Figueres. On Monday, he had, with his platoon, stopped a truck loaded with marijuana on the road from Chiriguana to Valledupar, and made the peasant park it near a bridge. According to the usual procedure, he had confiscated the truck and its contents from the driver, whereupon the driver, as was usual, offered to pay the fine instead, which meant buying the consignment back. This looks like a brand new book, but I got it at a fabulous used bookstore in Saskatoon, Westgate Books, because I thought this was the one I was buddy reading this year with Mel, but it's not. But I haven't read any Vita Sackville West novels, so I will read this, All Passion Spent. And the one that we're doing is the Edwardians, I think. It's about a woman who, when she was young, wanted to be an artist, and instead she becomes the dutiful wife of a great statesman and mother to 6 children. And I didn't notice till just now that several passages are dog-eared, and apparently this passage made somebody smile. I'd never dog-ear books, but the fact that somebody else has, and I have to unfold those, doesn't fuss me too much. Next, Sons and Lovers, a nice hardcover edition, D.H. Lawrence's famous novel. This, Gwen and I, my great friend from Saskatoon, who I bailed on our end-of-year buddy read, and we chose this one because I said, you know, I'm much less likely to bail on a classic. Whether I'm going to bail on a D.H. Lawrence, I don't know. I think I read Lady Chatterley's Lover for college, but I don't really remember. I just remember the movie, a couple scenes from the movie, but... Well, it's an enigmatic and very short opening sentence. The Bottoms succeeded to Hell Row. don't think this is a gay novel, but moving on. And I'm so excited. I requested this as a Christmas present, and I got it. Helen Humphrey's new novel, Machine Without Horses. And if you can read that, it's a signed copy from the bookstore. This was a gift from Santa Claus. And I procured a copy myself, and it will be mailing it to Anne so that we can buddy read it. Because it was impossible to find to get to Australia without a $50 shipping charge. And a writer stumbles across an obituary of a famous stranger, and her imagination gets sparked. Her novel, The Lost Garden, was one of my top reads of 2017, and I'm dying to read more Helen Humphreys. I think I might be doing 3 by her this year with Ange. Oh, okay, this has a nice opening. I'm looking at it for the very first time. Like I say, there's no planning or organization for this, people. What I can do in darkness: make love, negotiate my way through the dim hallways of my house, talk on the phone, drink a glass of water. What she could do in the darkness: tie a fishing fly. Oh my. This is a modern Canadian classic, and I found a attractive used copy, and will finally get to read it. Sirius Blooms at Night by Shani Moto. And I think this was brought back into my awareness by Camel, of what Camel reads, and maybe Eric Carl Anderson. Maybe they kind of bonded over it, but I certainly remember Camel raving about it, and I thought, how did this wonderful Polish booktuber have read and loved this book, and I haven't read it yet, so I'm gonna rectify that situation. It's a multi-generational novel, and the protagonist and the writer are Caribbean Canadians. Shani Mutu was born in Ireland and grew up in Trinidad, and hasn't written very much after this. And fittingly, the opening sentence is, "The Sirius in the yard will bloom soon." Next, a somewhat banged-up used copy of a Scottish novel that I read a couple of years ago and absolutely loved, Ocaladonea by Elspeth Barker. I did it on ebook on Scribd, and it was a buddy read on Litzy, and we all unanimously were ecstatic about how wonderful this novel is that nobody else except Ali Smith has been talking about in recent years. Ali Smith's By the Book appearance on the New York Times, you know, that column By the Book, and she mentioned this book. And so because of that, a bunch of us read it, and we absolutely loved it. But that e-copy on Scribd has disappeared, and I love this cover. But I will eventually try to get a better copy, but I am probably going to be buddy reading this as a reread this year with Mel of Mel's Bookland Adventures. Opening sentence: "The 16 years of Janet's life begin in wartime on a fog-bound winter night in Edinburgh." It's kind of dark, kind of gothic-y, quite wonderful. Another Helen Humphreys book. Actually, I bought this last year sometime in Saskatoon and left it for my mum to read, and she loved it. The Evening Chorus. And I think this is one that Ange also has. If I'm correct, I'm not sure if she has it already. She's on a book buying ban for this year, but if she has it, we're also going to be buddy reading this year. It seems to be about a British soldier shot down and put into a German POW camp. Opening sentence: "James Hunter falls through mourning." Oh, this was such a find. I noticed this book. It's almost antiquarian. It's not widely available, and I saw it in that fabulous used bookstore in Saskatoon, Westgate Books, last Christmas, because I didn't get there in August because I got married. I was a little busy. But last Christmas I saw it there, and I kicked myself that I didn't buy it on the spot for 20 bucks, but it was still there. And this is one of Margaret Lawrence's first books, The Canadian Novelist. And this is her non-fiction memoir, or is it more than a memoir? Travel book about living in Somaliland, which is a country that doesn't exist. And I'm not sure if that is now what is. I think that's... Well, I'll find out so I don't sound quite so stupid. Is that present-day Somalia? At the time that Margaret Lawrence would have lived there with her husband, let's see, this book was published in 1965, It was a British protectorate, and now it is considered to be an autonomous region of Somalia. But it's a self-declared republic, but recognized as an autonomous region. And so this is her memoir. So I'm really fascinated by all things African. I loved the couple Margaret Lawrence books that I read many years ago, and I just think this will be a fascinating read. Now, this was not only a cover by, this was a title by. There's going to be a long queue of people wanting to buddy read this with me, I think. The Sex Life of My Aunt by Mavis Cheek. I think I'd heard of her name. I'd heard her name before, but that's all. But that title, and it's fabulous. It's in good shape, and it's by a London novelist. And I don't know anything more than that. And I don't think you need to know anything more about what the book's about other than what the title tells you. Opening paragraph. I'm no good at flirting. Never have been. My ploy as a teenager has never changed. If there are males in the vicinity, hold your head up high, stare straight ahead, walk casually. Deceive. If they call out, you ignore them. Walk on. If your eyes meet across the crowded tube, look down, away, up, anywhere but into theirs. Never smile. To smile is to be vulnerable. To meet their eyes and smile is to admit you are interested, and interested means needy. Save your smiles for children, kittens, and the sunset over the sea. All right, that's the first bag. Only 2 more bags to go, plus what I've bought since I got back. This is a Canadian writer that I have never read. Roy Hadge. I must be able to find out how to pronounce his name.
Rawi Hage.
Rawi Hage. He is a Madeleine Tien's husband or life partner, and I've never read anything by him, and this is one of his better-known novels, Niros Game, and it is set in Beirut during one of their civil wars. And this is one of the series that I'm kind of collecting, even though I don't love all of the ones that I've read so far, from Anansi Press, the A-List. Very attractive. They're reprinting kind of Canadian classics that have gone out of print or whatever. Here's the first sentence. 10,000 bombs had landed, and I was waiting for George. I have never read Mary Wesley, and I have a feeling I'm going to love her, so I just picked up kind of a banged-up reading copy just to give her a try. This is called Jumping the Queue. It's about a suicidal woman who intercepts and foils another person's suicide. Oh my goodness. Fabulous author photo. This one I didn't look at carefully enough. I thought it was a novel. It's actually a memoir from China. I'm interested in China, so I will give it a go, but I don't like memoir usually, and this is about a family cleaved in two for the sake of one father's dreams. So half of the family is in China and half the family has emigrated to America. I didn't say the title. Denise Chong's The Concubines Children. But totally, like, Penguin doesn't... I didn't think they put out memoir in these editions. This is their novels. These are their novels. Penguin Modern Classic. Anyway, I'd never heard of her or the book, so we'll give it a try. This was on sale, wasn't it? And it was such a gorgeous hardcover edition that even though I have access to the ebook on Scribd and have been wanted to read this book for a couple of years, I couldn't stop myself from buying it. Waking Lions by Eilit Gundar Goshen. Britta Bowler raved about this book, and I had been interested in it even before I heard her rave, but that moved it that much further up. So now I have a lovely hardcover copy. It's about an Israeli neurosurgeon driving home from work late one night, and he hits and kills an African migrant worker. He panics, and it's a hit and run, but somehow the widow of this African man tracks him down, and it's that story. So here's the opening sentence. He's thinking that the moon is the most beautiful he has ever seen when he hits the man. Ah! I assume all of you watch Michelle's channel, Challenge Thy Shelf. It's absolutely stunningly produced and articulate channel because of her creative skills and her articulateness. And for one of her litmus things, she shared her favorite quote, and it was from this novel. So this is a Blame It on Michelle purchase. This gorgeous hardcover First Person, a novel by Richard Flanagan. I have never read anything by him, and this novel sounds fantastic. I went and listened to part of the podcast where she heard the quote, and this is a novel. It's a historical novel, so it might fit in somehow with Mel's historical fiction reading challenge for 2019. A con man and corporate criminal about to go on trial offers an unknown poor writer a ton of money to ghostwrite his memoirs within the next 6 weeks, and the story goes from there. It sounds... Actually, that little synopsis doesn't sound interesting to me, but what I heard on the podcast made it sound really interesting to me. This is a 2018 novel. I'm going to read the first paragraph without having read it to myself silently before. It looks starting out pretty interesting. Our first battle was birth. I wanted it in, he wanted it out. All that day and half of the next we argued. He said it had nothing to do with him. Later I began to see his point, but at the time it seemed bloody-mindedness and evidence of an inexplicable obstruction, as though he didn't actually want any memoir ever written. Of course he didn't want a memoir written, but that wasn't his point. Or the point. But I only realized this later, much later, when I came to fear that the beginning of that book was also the end of me. Oh my god, I want to continue reading right now. Okay. Definitely piqued my interest. That's bag 2. I've been hearing about this book for years, so when I saw it heavily discounted at one of the new bookstores in Saskatoon, McNally Robinson and I snatched it up. The Hair with Amber Eyes by Edmond de Waal. And this is about the Netske ceramic art collected by a 19th century banking dynasty in Paris and Vienna, and then the history of the family and the history of their Netske collection through the decades. And it's supposed to be just riveting. I think I heard about this from a couple different places, but one I remember was Ariel. Ariel, she seems like she's changed her channel name to The Reading Rush recently, but I was confused. I think I first heard of this on her short-lived podcast, where she interviewed that really cute guy from Edmonton. What's his name? I don't remember it. It's, you know what time it is? It's like 6 in the morning. I'm wide awake because of jet lag. But anyway, Jason. And she loved this book, and he didn't. But it was on sale. I'll give it a try. Birds Art Life by Kyo McClear. The subtitle is A Year of Observation. So it's about birds and stuff. I'm not really into birds, but I like nature writing, what little of it I have read. So this is a 2017 book. And Kyo McClear, Kyo sounds like a Japanese name, so I don't know if she is of Japanese extraction or not. Let's check her out. She's of mixed British-Japanese descent, and she looks it. Born in London, moved to Toronto at the age of 4. She's a novelist, essayist, and children's author. Okay, this was a buy that maybe some of you are going to be, one of you might be in luck, because this might end up being a giveaway on my channel. I bought it because it was so beautiful cover, and I remembered hearing about the title and the author, but I couldn't remember what I read. I couldn't open the book and flip through it. I couldn't do a page 112 test, but it was a total cover buy, and I don't think it's ultimately going to be a Sean book. Look at this cover, though. This is The Book of Disquiet by Fernando Pessoa, translated from the Portuguese. It is just a stunningly gorgeous book. But once I opened it, actually my mom looked at it first and she said, "This sounds awful." And I looked through it and said, "Yeah, it kind of does." It's very philosophical, melancholy, and I don't think there's a story to it. So I will give it a little bit more of a try, but otherwise it's going to be a giveaway later on my channel. But it is a gorgeous specimen of a book, don't you think? I can't remember if I finished my thought. The reason I couldn't open it was wrapped in plastic. So now I think that's all the books I brought back from Canada. To finish up are the little bit of a book haul I've had in the last 5 days. I talked about this on my Friday read, Celestial Bodies by Joka Alharti, an Omani novel. I'm already reading it for, it's the selection for Mel's Around the World book club, where they read fiction by women from every country in the world, and this is from Oman, and the first 2 chapters I've absolutely loved. I think I've read 3, and I'm really, really enjoying it. So you're going to hear much more about this from me. I hope I continue to enjoy it. It is from Sandstone Press, and it's one of the most wonderful. It just feels so good in your hand. It's got a really thick cover, and it's just going to keep in good shape for its entire existence on the planet, barring I don't know what. But it's a gorgeously produced novel, and I'm really enjoying the writing. Really enjoying the writing. I have wanted to read this book since it was published because I enjoyed her short story collection so much. At the end of 2017, I think I read it. This is Shobha Rao's Girls Burn Brighter, and it finally came down in price on Amazon. But when it was delivered last night and I opened it, it's quite, look at that. Amazon's bad for that. So I think because I'm not in any hurry to read it, I'm going to send it back. And I have to pay the postage to return it, but then and say, I demand a new book. This was sent in a soft envelope instead of a box, and I think that's why. But that's no good. Anyway, I've heard very mixed reviews of the novel, but I really enjoyed her short stories, and I love fiction from this part of the world. 2 Blame It on Eric Carl Anderson purchases after I watched his December wrap-up video, I think it was. Damn you, Eric! The Unpunished Vice, A Life of Reading by Edmond de Waal. I don't get along with Edmond de Waal's fiction, particularly. I haven't tried it for years, but this memoir of his reading life sounded wonderful, and so I got it. Let's look at the opening paragraph together. All my life I've been a tireless, if slow, reader, happy no matter where I find myself, if I have words to look at. Content to stand in a grim line in the cold, to undergo the worst sort of medical procedure, or to endure boredom if I can only read something. Until I suffered a massive heart attack at the end of 2014. After open heart surgery, I was unconscious for 3 days. When I came to, the painkillers made me sound childish. I couldn't walk, I had no appetite, I slept all the time, and I had no desire to read. Wow, that grabs me from the get-go. And just how strange is it that the first page of chapter 1 is on the left side? I don't think I've ever seen that in a book published in the West. Anyway, that sounds interesting. And another Blame It on Eric was this Indian novel, Laila, by Prayag Akbar. And it's, I think, a little dystopian or something, which doesn't necessarily grab me, but it's like an Indian Handmaid's Tale. That grabbed me, and anything from India. I have never been disappointed yet from a book from this part of the world. So, and it was pretty inexpensive to buy on Amazon, so I ordered it the same night I watched Eric's video. Here's the opening few lines. My husband thinks we cannot find her. His voice is raw from screaming. When will you understand, Shalini? It's been 16 years. You think I don't know? Riz looks at me, bobbles his head, but doesn't say anything. In the sinking light, his old man stubble glitters like salt grain. It is he who doesn't understand. I'm almost there. Well, that sounds pretty interesting. And finally, I have a fairly new subscriber who is a published author. This is a travel memoir or a travel novel. It's kind of a mixed genre thing, and I couldn't believe that it was available to me here in Japan from Amazon, so I ordered it. The writer's name is Iman Shihi, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and this is called Summer in the City-State, Ceuta to Tangier through Fortress Europe. It sounds really intriguing. A political coming-age travel narrative. I think I saw some references online to it being novelized or autobiographical fiction. I'm not sure, but it's a short little book. I'm looking forward to reading it. There's too many difficult to pronounce place names in the opening few lines, so I won't take the time to read it to you, but looking forward to reading it myself. All right, I think that's my book haul. Which of these would you be most interested in reading, or which ones have you read yourself? Thanks for watching.